situation. By the way, I love your analysis and your opinions and everything else about it. But if you were to put Carson back in now, you're really putting a guy back in there that's been out for 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. And your team is hot. Your team is rolling. I think our defense is playing really well. Taylor is able to escape and make plays with his legs. I thought Scott called a terrific game. There were so many things to like about Monday Night Football. You're going to have, Joe the kicker on. You look at our defense. You look at the throws that Taylor made, particularly the one to Terry down the sideline. It was just a absolutely beautiful, beautiful pass. Got the ball out of his hands quickly. Was smart with the football. Probably the biggest play of the game was when he threw the ball away when it would have been a big sack. And trying to make a play with it. You could see his maturity. I like the fact that Taylor has done a terrific job making good decisions, and the more he plays, the better decisions he'll make going forward. And why would you want to disrupt the train while it's running right now? I don't think you should.
And I don't think they will. A lot of people, I think the national media more than anything, they're looking at the timeline of when he comes off IR and saying, oh, they got a decision to make. Well, he hadn't really been cleared to practice. And, you're coming off a win over the best team in football. So I think right now there's not even really a debate. It's kind of a no-brainer. I guess my question, Joe, is if we fast forward a few weeks, right, and Wentz is now healthy and he's been practicing and he's 100% and he's able, is there a debate at that time, or is it as simple as long as you're winning, it's Heineke's almost regardless of whether or not he's the reason you're winning? Like if he's going 17 of 32 with no touchdowns and a pick and, you're kind of winning in spite of not throwing the ball all that well, does he keep the job just because let's not mix it up? I mean, I'm fine with that, but is that a possible way to view this? How would you describe that?
Well, Grant, you can actually flip that a little bit too, is if let's say we don't win, but yet Taylor is very steady, what do you do then? To me, I just can't see Ron playing yo-yo at quarterback. I think whatever decision he decides to make today or whenever, in the very near future, let's say, I think he'll stay with that going forward. He's a very patient man. You've listened to a lot of his interviews. You asked him questions, and, he's very thoughtful about what he wants to say, the direction he wants his football team. I think he's playing good, solid football, team football right now, and Taylor is a part of it. And to make a change for change's sakes, and, I've listened to you guys debate the economics of it. Well, if, Carson plays 70%, it's this draft. It doesn't matter as far as draft choice goes. Who cares? But, people would say, well, you're paying him a lot of money. How can you sit him? Well, you know what? The guy that's playing now is doing a terrific job. And it's a, what do you do now for me business? How are you playing now? Are you playing smart football? Are you playing good football? Are we winning in spite of you or because of you? I think that Taylor, and I said this at the beginning of the year, and you and I have talked about this. Taylor Heineke is and can be a starter in the National Football League. And I can see other teams that, he could fit into very well that would be an upgrade at that position. We just happen to be fortunate enough, I think, to have him. And I respect him tremendously because they brought Carson Wentz in. And, it was going to be Carson's job. Forget about the competition because you don't bring in somebody at that price and sit him. So basically they brought him into play. And now he seized his opportunity. Very similar to the Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson situation. That was going to be Brian's job coming out of training camp. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, we thought so.
And so Antonio could have done one of two things. Could have sat there and said, oh, man, they're giving my job away. I can't believe it. But no, what he did is he worked on his trade. And now they have an equal value in this backfield and really do a terrific job of protecting the football. And that was the big thing. I did a show on Monday morning. They said, what's going to be the difference in the Washington-Philadelphia game? I said, giveaway-takeaway ratio. If we don't give the ball away, if we don't turn the ball over more than other people, I don't think we're an easy football team to beat.
Joe Theismann with us here on G&D. So, Joe, you've obviously played at such a high level in this league and have been around it for so long. I wonder how you balance the this is what the locker room feels versus your own evaluation. I don't mean Joe Theismann's evaluation. I mean,
Sure.
Like a coach or someone in a front office position. Like your eyes and your evaluation can say one thing, but like the pulse of the lads, right? You know how they're feeling about it, or at least seems to be from the outside looking in. How do you balance that sort of thing here when making a decision like this?
Well, you can't make change for change's sake. There has to be a reason. There has to be substance to it. Players aren't stupid. Danny, they're just not dumb. They see what's going on. They feel what's going on. It's almost like a feeling more than anything else. They sense what's happening. Taylor's making plays. He's making good, smart decisions. He's giving them a chance to win. And that's the thing you look for at the quarterback position. Are like I say, are you the reason why we're winning? Or are you the reason why we're not winning? And what are you doing contributing to, if we are winning, in what capacity? And I think, you have to look at what he's done over the last 4 weeks, for example, his body of work. They've been close games. He's made key throws at specific times. And early on, I think he always tried to make a play. Everybody, I think he started reading all this baloney about, he doesn't have the strongest arm. We just want to throw the ball down the field. Well, that throw he made to Terry, I thought was pretty darn good. And truthfully, what people don't understand is there are very few guys that have really strong arms in this game. Now, Josh Allen, certainly. Tom Brady still throws the living daylights out of the ball. Patrick Mahomes is not quite at that level, but close. But there are a lot of guys that don't throw the ball hard. Geno Smith doesn't throw the ball hard. But what you do is you have to get it out of your hand with timing and rhythm. Deep balls, if you're throwing a go to a wide receiver, that ball has to be out of your hand when your back foot hits the ground, you shuffle and go, which really gets the wide receiver to about out of the maybe 15 yards down the field. Then it's a question of ball placement. Where does it go? But you're not going to stand back there and throw the ball 60 yards down the field. The game doesn't allow for it, first of all, and secondly, by the time the ball got there, you get a crowd around it anyway. So I think he's just, and he's doing things that you need to win this football game. And I think Scott has found a comfort level with him at quarterback with the decisions that he's making and the throws that he can make.
Joe Theismann, Grant and Danny breaking down the quarterback situation with us here on The Fan. Specific to Wentz for a moment, Joe, he played a month of football after they acquired him in a new offense, right? And the first two games were actually pretty good, largely. I mean, I think he and Mahomes were like tops in yards and touchdowns after a couple of games. They were 1-1, obviously. It didn't continue that way. He struggled a little bit after that. But the question for me is, after the offseason that they had and the commitment they made, and you referenced the money and the draft picks and those things, but they decided this was a higher ceiling than Heineke. They saw what Heineke was and said, hey, if we can make this work with Wentz, this is a better long-term solution for us. If they don't go back to him, to me, that means that he's done here. Like you're not going to keep him next year if he was Heineke's backup down the stretch, if you didn't take the time to evaluate him in your offense, right? So aren't they in some ways deciding right now about his future here because they've got the get-out-of-jail-free card at the end of this year, or do you think that decision's already been made?
I don't think the decision's been made. There's a lot of football left to play. I mean, and Carson, to me, is the kind of guy, I believe this 100%. He's going to keep on working. He's going to do everything he can to help Taylor, or if Sam goes in, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It's a really, really good quarterback room from what I understand. These guys all appreciate one another. They all have somewhat different skill sets, and they all really want this football team to win. And that's the bottom line. And that's key and important. What they do with Carson going forward, certainly economically, there's a huge commitment in him this year. But if he doesn't play the rest of the year and Taylor stays healthy, what are you going to bring him? What number do you basically bring him back at? Then it becomes an economic decision. And then it becomes a decision if Carson wants to be able to come back. Or is there someplace else where he can go and have an opportunity to play? I don't even look at the Indianapolis situation of being one, because to me that the whole thing was just insane. I mean, the whole thing is sort of nutty there, as it is. So I think that, for him, it's just, you basically have to take that Antonio Gibson philosophy and say, hey, look, okay, Taylor's out there now. I didn't lose my job. I got hurt. So I know I can play in this league, and I'm going to prepare myself. If the opportunity comes, down the road to be ready to lead this football team. Because right now we're in the middle of it, and it's all hands on deck, no matter whether you're a starter or a backup. And so as I look at it, I don't know what the next 8 weeks are going to hold. I mean, is Taylor going to be able to stay healthy? He's been a pretty darn resilient guy when it comes to continuing to play football. It isn't necessarily that he's been hurt and misses much time, which I think is a key. To me, I've been asked umpteen times, what is the most important asset that a quarterback possesses? And I say the ability to be able to play in practice and continue to learn and get better. And the only way you do that is by playing and practicing. And he's been able to do that.
Joe, what do you want to see more of from Heinicke, and what do you want to see less of? Assuming he gets to keep in the role for as long, but just in terms of your eye, what do you see that you think, I like that, I want to see more of it, and something you say, you know what, you got to cut that out?
Danny, you always wind up with the question, don't you? You're like, Grant just keeps this thing rolling, and all of a sudden you go, I got one for you. Let's see if we get Joe to jump off the bridge.
I don't mean it that way, I swear.
I know you don't, but it's really fun. Like I said, I love listening to you guys' show all the time. I think that what I'd like to see is what I saw against the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to see him make good decisions with the ball in his hands. Okay, I think he got away with one in the Minnesota game, throwing it down the middle. And you have to work a safety if you're going to try and throw a fade down the sideline. You can't do it against cover two without working that safety away. And because the ball travels too far. It has nothing to do with arm strength. The ball just travels 35, 40 yards down the field. And these people are good. The guys on the other side of the ball are good, really good. And you're going to throw interceptions. He's protected the football well. He's made good decisions. He was part of the conversions of third down, which was a huge thing in this game. To be able to not make the mistake, to not make that critical mistake backed up where you put the ball on the ground or you throw the interception. The one thing nobody talked about in the Green Bay game, I'm glad we have a chance to bring this up, is just before that linebacker scored the touchdown, there was somebody diving at his feet trying to knock him out of bounds. And you know who that was? That was Taylor Heinicke. Exactly. And so that kind of hustle, that kind of I'm not giving up no matter what, has really been his trademark, and it's who he is. I would like to bottle this game and say, okay, let's see if we can continue to play this kind of football and maybe get a little better in other areas where they can evaluate better than I can. But I thought that was as well played physically and mentally a football game as I've seen him play.
Joe, off the beaten path entirely, so I apologize. I'm throwing you a change up here, so hopefully you'll barrel it and send it into the outfield. We were just talking about this a few minutes ago, and I can't stop thinking about it. I walked by the TV screen, I was watching NFL Network, and they're calling for 3 feet of snow in Buffalo on Sunday, and they got a game against the Browns. I'm wondering, and I'm sure historians and people that are older than me would be able to call some of these games out just listening, but do you have any epic snow games, or is it more just like it was snowing while you were playing? And I'm wondering as a quarterback, what's that like? Because sometimes I expect, they're going to have to run it every down, and then it actually benefits the offense because, like, those guys know where they're going and the defense doesn't. So I'm just trying to get a feel for what that might actually look like on Sunday in terms of the Bills trying to move the ball, throwing it.
Oh, Greg, you make a great point. Offense, I think, has an advantage in inclement weather, whether it be rain or whether it be snow. Never played in a snow game, but I did play in Buffalo where it was -5 wind chill. That's they weren't playing. Windy, cold, miserable day. It makes it. You want to sit down next to the heaters, but as soon as you move away from them, it's just as darn cold. So it's like, why bother? Why am I trying to warm up a part of my body when in about 2 seconds it's going to be freezing again? That Buffalo seems to be the place where interesting things happen when it comes to weather conditions. I think offense does have an advantage. I believe that it's going to be a game of patience. And, Josh Allen has a strong enough arm to be able to, as we've seen, throw the ball in every condition. It's a big guy. He can strong arm it down the field if he needs to. The big thing's going to be footing. what kind of shoes this is how simple it is. What kind of footing are we going to have? I've played games in the Canadian Football League where I've seen games and played in a little bit of snow, but not like they're expecting up in Buffalo. I mean, it's Buffalo. It's Buffalo, and it's late November. What are we expecting? Snow. But I think it is an advantage for the offense. I think it's going to be a game where, a betting person, the under might be very attractive. I don't know what the number is.
We were looking at that. I got you on that. It was 38 when our show started, and I'd imagine it's still coming down.
As the snow goes up, that total goes down.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. As the inches increase on the ground, so does the number in that. It's going to be hard. I don't think the Browns are a very good football team all the way around right now, and Buffalo has got to be stung and hurting. I mean, they've been touted as the Super Bowl champions. They've been touted as a Super Bowl contender. Now all of a sudden they've lost teams in the division. They've lost some close football games. Josh has, in the last couple of weeks, been turning the ball over. So there's a lot of things that I think Buffalo wants to get right, and this should be a get-right game for them. Now, it goes back to turning the ball over. I mean, if they don't turn the ball over, I don't know how they lose, to be honest with you. And then their defense is really that good, and that's what made Minnesota's win over them so impressive to me. The Vikings offense put up 30 points against them. Really. I think Buffalo in that game. And, but yet, Kirk played as solid as we've seen him play. I mean, we talk about Taylor, bottling this game against Philadelphia. I think Kirk has sort of played solid football all year long. Everybody said, well, he doesn't play well at night. He doesn't play well in big games. He doesn't play well on Monday. He doesn't play well on Sunday. That was the same thing they talked about with Matt Ryan for years until Matt Ryan went to a Super Bowl. Well, Matt could get in the playoffs, but he can't play the big one. And I think Kirk is proving more and more that he is the quarterback that we should be talking about a little bit more as one of those guys that's, having one heck of a great year, but yet foundationally has had an extremely good career.
Joe, always awesome to catch up with you, man. Really appreciate the time. Be well.
I love listening to you guys. Take care. Thanks,
Joe.
You're the best. There's Joe Theismann with us here on Grant and Danny. Good to catch up with him. We saw him tweet on Sunday night, sick with Heineke, and we thought it would be great to have him on to give some thoughts and some insight on that. Speaking of Monday Night Football and the big win over the Eagles, Joey Slye was true on 4 field goals, all of his attempts, including 2 from 55-plus in the second longest kick in team history. He joins us live on the show next on G&D.
This season's #1 drama.
It's been a long time since I've seen a performance like that.
Is unscripted.
A bunch of talk that can go on, anything can be said.
We got this, come on now. We don't know how it's going to go. Filled with action. About to get ugly.